Hello from Hemmingford, Quebec, everybody. I'm David Smith, or Data Smith on Lichess, and welcome to more content from the Hemmingford Chess Club. Tonight, I'm actually paying off an old debt to Darktigr, or Dominic, who was very gracious when last spring we tried to do an interview, and I managed to mess up time after time. We wasted a couple of evenings together, and we never got him out, got the video out. But we're here tonight, and as you can see, I'm wearing a very elegant piece of headgear, which I think is going to solve the last technical problems that we had last time, and the technical problem I had earlier this week with Hodjon. Anyway, here's crossing our fingers. Yeah. So Dominic, we're talking to you from you're Indiana, is that right, or Ohio?
Yep,
Indiana.
Northern Indiana.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. My memory isn't completely gone yet. So you doing okay?
Yeah. So lately, my chess progress has been on the decline, but I felt like I've been learning a lot more lately. So while my rating is tragically going down, I find I'm taking way more lessons away from the game.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to get back into over the board tournaments. I'm going to be going to the U.S. Open in late July, early August.
Cool.
So
Where's the U.S.
yeah,
Open this year?
it's in Norfolk.
Okay, cool, cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. You say you're in decline. It's not my perception at all. Like there was once upon a time when I had at least faint hopes of beating you in the odd game, but I would say the last year, you're in another class at this point. So
Yeah. So here's my chess story. I started when my dad taught me when I was really young, about three, maybe more like 5 or 6. But I got good enough to beat my dad and everybody in my house, and then I stopped.
hmm,
But when I got through high school, there was just one other kid who I couldn't beat, and we weren't even that good. We were rated like 16, 1700 then. But still, that's kind of where my chess career halted. I picked it back up later after high school, so about two, maybe 2.5 years ago, and I've been steadily improving since. Um, I like playing longer time control games now. When in the past I just like playing bullet, just fast moves, intuition, don't think. Now I really do enjoy taking my time and strategizing and planning out in advance my next move. So hoping to do that more in the future.
hmm. And so you think that's the key is playing slower in terms of improvement, or do you have a study
That's
program or something?
that's the reason I took my level up so much from high school, is because I've actually found enjoyment in playing longer time control chess.
Hmm.
And when I say my ratings on the decline, that's mainly on um, long rapid, like 10-minute plus 30-second increment or whatever.
Right.
Just casual games online. But I do like to take it seriously when it comes to longer time controls.
Cool. And apart from chess, is there anything else that sort of makes you passionate the way chess does?
Oh yeah, there's tons of things. I have a couple of Rubik's cubes here. Actually, there's two of them here. Um, there's another two, so they're really useful as sort of like a fidget tool.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of like when you feel like you're not doing enough, you know, exercise or spending enough energy or whatever, you can just start doing T perms or any algorithm on the Rubik's cube, and it's fun. But that's just a fun hobby. I work in a meat store. It's nothing special. And I like to sing, but I prefer playing drums. So I have like a bit of a alter ego, I guess, like singing in the shower kind of guy. But mainly people know me as musically as a drummer.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Well,
So I do have a couple other hobbies.
that's an interesting discovery. That's you're the third member of the HCC who sings that I know of. So I think we're due for an HCC choir or something at some point.
I didn't tell you that last time
No.
because I wasn't as good back then, but I have improved. Yeah.
Cool. Cool. All right. So you want to look at a couple of positions here? Um,
Yeah,
let's
let's
see.
go through them.
Okay, so we'll pull up the first one here is from Section A, NI7S or Nils against Galdave. And we are coming out of what opening was this, Dominic? Do you recall?
This was a D4 opening.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, is it a Grunfeld? Yeah, it was a Grunfeld, right?
Yeah. That's
So
true.
that's how you get these types of isolated queen pawn positions, which is the main theme of this particular position that we're looking at. I don't know if you have it pulled up on the
Yep.
screen
Yeah.
yet.
It's
Okay,
up on the
awesome.
screen. As I understand the
So
Grunfeld, it's like White has basically got to make something happen in the middle game, otherwise that pawn falls and Black wins the end game. Correct?
yeah, so and the main point about the isolated queen pawn positions is that white shouldn't rush to trade pieces.
Right.
And this can be kind of hard to understand because when you have far extended pawn, you feel like you want to trade into an endgame so that the pawn it has a better chance of becoming a passer and potentially queening.
Right.
So on the other hand, having an isolated queen pawn is a huge weakness. You want to have pieces that will defend that weakness and
Mm-hmm.
pieces that can operate around that weakness and potentially go for attacks. With that said, Galdave, yeah. Is that who played white?
Yep.
Galdave?
Yep.
Okay. Galdave here played queen d4, which isn't losing immediately, but the problem is no matter how black treats this position, they can kind of edge an advantage out. They can take on d4 and trade off the dark squared bishop. They can even take back on g7 with the knight, or they can do what they did in the game and solidify the queen on a5. Now, if you look at this initially, you might think, oh, it's good. I just traded on b4 and damaged black's pawn structure. But as
Yeah, that's
soon as you
certainly
trade
how
on
I would think. That
b4,
would be my immediate
yes,
reaction.
yes, because you have plenty of active pieces that you think might be able to
Yeah.
take advantage of this b4 and
Mm-hmm.
b7 weaknesses. But what instead happened was that immediately relinquished control over the c3 square, so the knight has to move, and the knight is also very short on squares. Not only was
Yeah.
it a defender of the d pawn, so that d pawn loses a defender, it can only go back to either e2 or d2, and when it comes back to e2, bam, bishop to b5 as played in the game.
Right.
And white is pretty much busted. They had to continue with rook to e1, but after knight takes d5 and white traded off the tried to trade off. I'm not actually sure how this game ended, but black eventually managed to take control with the extra initiative that
Right.
they got. And
Right.
yeah, you can see they're just pouncing all over white's position. So let's just zoom quickly to see how this game ended. Yeah,
So essentially,
black
black
was
black is
basically,
going to win because he's got that spare pawn to take into the endgame.
yeah, plus the two bishops.
And the two bishops,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
yep,
Very nice.
that's how the game ends. All right.
So
What
just to where can we go back to? Where's
queen d4?
Yeah, exactly. So at this point, the key move is black's a5,
Yes.
and
Which
he's able to see here, and this is the tough positional or well, this is a calculation exercise in some ways too, right? That black has to be able to see that after this exchange, the knight.
the knight is basically out of squares.
That's right. That's right. And the d pawn falls. But it's
Yes.
lovely. It's definitely not the kind of move that you'd immediately reach for. Like that requires a certain
No.
amount of creativity. Very nice.
That's why I was saying queen takes d4, easy move, black gets an advantage,
Yep.
but a5 slightly better, blessed by the engine,
Yep.
and it pays off immediately.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. All right. So we want to move on to the next game here.
Which one?
the next game. This is Liftssometimes against Lucas Wasserman.
Yes,
Liftssometimes,
yes.
his name is Paul. Paul against Lucas. This is in section B. These are both opponents of mine, and both Canadians, incidentally.
Hmm.
Okay, so what are we looking at here? This came out of a Caracan?
Yes. So
Right.
an exchange Caracan. I actually
Right.
really liked White's opening here. They got a solid advantage, and they just played extremely solidly throughout the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see how they ended up winning.
Can we back up one move here? Just
Yes.
back up to, yeah, okay. So so black has just played queen b6, threatening the b2 pawn, and so right, and then white defends it this way. Um, as I play the Caro-Kann as black too, and I wouldn't find, sort of looking at this, I would be reasonably happy with my position as black in that, the c pawn, the white c pawn is, well, it's not about to fall or anything, but I feel I've provoked a little bit of a weakness by forcing white to play b3.
Yeah. Yeah. So I looked at this with the engine, I'll admit.
Mm-hmm.
My initial reaction as black is to play something like
Yeah,
e6,
right.
maybe get the light squared bishop out later. But the engine recommendation, I believe, is g6. That was one of the top moves.
Right.
And it really just comes down to understanding that when white played that b3 move, this long diagonal became extremely weak. White wants to push c4 eventually, but
Mm-hmm.
that'll make d4 loose.
Okay. So what does black play in fact?
Um, well, instead of developing pieces, which would probably be the best continuation, black decided to play knight takes d4.
Yeah.
Did anyone see this coming?
Yeah, none of us
Well,
did. I love that though. See, when I saw that move, I was watching the game, and it made the evening because it's a lot of fun, this game, all of a sudden.
yeah, exactly. And as white, when you get hit with a move like this, it can be really shocking, and it's not always easy to find
Yep,
the correct continuation.
absolutely. Yeah, it's a big psychological blow because when you see black play that move, you say, "Oh, geez, he's seen something that I haven't."
Yeah, yeah. In fact, this is a position you might like catch a brief glance at from afar and then think, wait, this is better for black, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but white finds a nice solution. Now the engine just says you can just play knight to e2, give up the rook, and claim compensation. And this comes with the fact that black hasn't developed any pieces,
Right.
which is why I mentioned that earlier. But the
But that's a
technical
classic
move,
in engine move, though. You
that
know,
is yeah,
like
no,
the engine's
yeah,
convinced
let's
that
not.
it's going to take advantage of the queen off in the corner, but in human play, it's a whole other thing.
Yeah, especially when you have the alternative, which
Right.
white found in the game.
Right.
So clearing this bishop to b5 move with a check
Yep.
clears the queen's defense
Of
of the
c3.
c3 square.
But yeah.
And that matters because after black attacks the bishop and we get this trade, white is now able to save their rook with knight c3.
Yeah.
So these are the kind of details that are extremely difficult to miss. And they're part of what makes classical chess so fun because nothing is ever clear cut as it seems to be.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. There's often resources that are hidden in the position that you would never see in blitz.
Yeah, certainly nothing you would see from afar,
Yeah. Yeah.
like 10 moves down five, you know, unless you're Magnus Carlsen.
Well, yeah. Yeah, and so now
So
in this position, now White's lead in development is going to start to count,
they,
and the vulnerable king
yeah,
and so
and
on.
it doesn't help that black took with the king. It would have been better
Yes,
if they took with the knight to
yes,
prepare this e4 move.
right.
So really, this is a matter of a conversion for white
Yeah,
because they're going to be able to get their king castled quickly, and the game ended swiftly.
yep,
Queen takes f7, and black
yeah,
resigned.
yeah, yeah. There's a mate coming on c7 there. Very nice, very nice. Yeah, it was a fun game to watch. That's for sure. I certainly appreciated it.
Yeah, swashbuckling game,
Yeah,
just like good
exactly.
old romantic era chess.
Exactly. All right, so then let's take a look at your game with Gus, which reached an end game,
Yeah,
and
so the opening wasn't too special. It was a French, which black I know, but it's pretty solid. I managed to trade down a couple of pieces, and you can see black has a sort of figurative advantage. White has the bishop, which is always better in these cross pawn positions, these end games where there's pawns on both sides of the board. Typically, the bishop stands better there. But black's king is further up the board. They have this nice pawn in the center, which can be used to lock out white's pieces.
hmm,
And these knights are really active too. So we come to this position, and I realize that white's kingside pawns are really weak. And for one example is, let's say I wanted to play h5. As soon as white takes on h5, you might think, yeah, white's won a pawn. Isn't that good? Yeah, but white's pawn structures are now worse. White's pawn structure is worse than black after that exchange. And black would be able to at least manage a draw if they played h5.
right.
So after seeing, yeah, moves like h5, I thought, well, why not move the other pawn? If I move the other pawn to attack g4, this f pawn, now you can't take because my knight gets back and you can't defend the pawn on f5. So over the course of this game, I've been trying to pose white serious questions, and this was just another question in a long series of moves. And so when it gets to this point, um, white has to start thinking like, okay, well, how do I actually make a draw out of this? It's clearly a draw, but what can you do about it? Now here, white is supposed to go a4, actually push the knight back right away, and then go knight c3.
Hmm.
But white didn't see that, and instead they just they played a4. But what was the move? I forget the engine continuation, but sorry about that. Anyways, so white did push back the knight from a4, but yeah, I believe they were supposed to just take and then play a4 or
Okay.
something with knight c3 involved. But instead, they played h3, and it might not seem obvious why this is such a I want to call it a mistake. I'd call it an inaccuracy. Um, well, it's because now black has more potential to do some damage on the king side. So what if I go, for instance, knight to e6, trying to aim for f4, trying to attack h3, maybe knight
Right.
to g5. And here my opponent makes a crucial mistake. They play king to d2, which walks right into a fork on g5. And it wasn't easy to manage this position before. Even though the engine says it's a draw, it's not. You have to find the right moves,
For
right?
sure. For sure.
So continuing the line, after knight to g5, white played knight to c3. I was given the option of which pawn to take. And here an interesting moment occurred. So what I calculated, what was exactly what happened in the game. I calculated all the way up to, and we'll show that, bishop to e5, which turned out to be a crucial blunder. But the reason he made that mistake was for the same reason I calculated it. It seemed to be the only um, I don't know how to put it. Only active move, right?
Hmm.
Obviously.
Hmm.
Sorry. So I decided to take the pawn on h3, and what I was looking at was you go bishop to d5. Sorry, bishop to d4. I'm a little bit nervous. Knight to g5 and king to e3. And I notice
Okay. Now,
it's
now for
just
those of us,
this is what white.
for those of
Sorry.
us who don't see it immediately, why isn't white taking the pawn at g7?
Because there would be a fork on, well, in
Oh,
this
I see. Of
position.
course. Yeah, yeah. No, no,
Sorry,
but well, no,
beforehand.
yeah,
Yeah.
before
Why is
exactly. Yeah.
Before I was attacking the f3 pawn, so
Okay, yeah.
I saw that my knight could come back to g5, and
Right.
then eventually it would come back to e6,
Right. Yeah. So
which would
you're
be
prepared to trade the G pawn against the F pawn.
right, exactly. And
Yeah.
again, with white with just this lone pawn, even if I didn't take this,
Yeah.
white with just a lone pawn is
Yeah. Yeah.
very
Black has a
weak.
passer now.
Yeah, but that's hypothetical.
Yeah.
What happened in the game was I played knight to e6, and now in this position, it already looks extremely difficult for white to play. What makes this position so difficult for white to play? Well, it's because white's bishop is completely trapped.
Yep.
The engine only gives knight to e2, but that's just to survive. And at this point, black is already up a pawn, so they can press their advantage for a long time. So I calculated all the way up to bishop to e5 because this was the only other logical move.
What don't we like about knight to e2? Would black trade the bishop on d4?
No, white or black should typically. I think they should solidify with something like g6. I don't think they should go for the trade immediately.
Okay.
Especially because this bishop, it's not really that powerful.
Right.
If we play g6, it won't be hitting anything anytime soon.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So the only other logical move is bishop to e4, and I'm not sure if the scorecard revealed it yet, but the winning move here, one of the winning moves, is f4, kicking the king back, and notice the bishop on e5. Yeah, sorry, e5, completely trapped. This knight defending all the crucial squares, and as soon as black plays knight to f7, that's when the white realizes they can't actually escape with their bishop anywhere.
Yeah.
They have to try to salvage material out of this. And after bishop to b8, king to b7, takes, black is in a winning position. Now, I didn't manage to have a clean conversion, and that comes back to something I said earlier, which is not to trade too quickly, but in this case, it's for a different reason. See, what ended up happening in this game is I ended up trading all the pawns except one, and this gave white a couple good drawing chances to try to make it back. So just in case you think, oh, I lost a piece, I may have two pawns, but it's completely over. No, you can always come back for a draw if your opponent messes it up.
Yep.
But yeah.
And even as you were saying earlier, you know, it's worth playing out just for the learning of it anyway.
Yeah, just to watch your opponent, see how well they convert, and find out any way to try to make a draw. And you might be able to find some resources in these positions where white has to kind of bolt towards the kingside pawn to sacrifice their knight for it or just stop it or whatever. But unfortunately, they weren't able to find the defensive drawing techniques, and I went on to win the game.
Yep, very cool. Yeah, you know, white. Yeah, it definitely worthwhile for white to have played on, because if white can manage to trade his knight for the pawn, the two black knights can't mate.
Yeah, I guess we can take one of those positions over here. So, like for instance, if white just tries to keep an eye on the h3 square.
Yeah.
It's very hard for black to kick out this knight because they can only attack it with their king or another knight.
Yeah.
It's not like I have a bishop where I can just hit the bishop and the knight has to move or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
So these double knight endgames with a pawn, these can be extremely tricky to win, and I did not realize that going into it.
Right. Yeah, it's like you say, if it's not as simple as saying, "Oh, I'm up a couple of pawns, I can trade everything off, and I'm good."
Right, black is up 4 points.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're so materialistic. It's amazing,
Exactly, but can't mate a king with two knights.
No. Cool. Listen, Dominic, we're pretty much out of time here, but this has been pretty good. I really appreciate you explaining the positions there. It's it's nice, and I'm sure others will appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, thanks again, and thanks for all your patience. Last spring and again now, and let's hope we get this out onto YouTube without any surprises. And just I'll remind everybody that the candidates tournament is being held in Toronto in between April 3rd and 23rd. And if anybody's interested, I'm going to be in Toronto on the 17th and 18th, I think, for rounds 11 and 12, just before the end of the tournament. So 11 and 12 or 10 and 11, anyway, whatever. The just before the final two rounds. So if anybody's interested in showing up in Toronto, I'd be more than happy to get together. So take care, everybody, and
Will there be pizza?
will there be what?
Pizza?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
All right. I'll see if I can make it then.
All right. We'll see you there, Dominic, and if not, we'll see you on Thursday night. Thanks again.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.